what would you recommend for a rugged? What would you recommend for a rugged cable knit sweater for everyday wear with a kilt at work? I need something that's going to hold up. You guys are the best, and thanks for doing this show. Just this show, not any other shows. Just this one.
Just
this
one today. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching.
A rugged cable knit sweater. Cable knit sweaters, I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here. Cable knit sweaters scare me a little bit from depending on the type of work that I'm going to be doing. When you say rugged, I'm imagining like, chopping wood and, carrying big armfuls of wood with splinters and stuff. Been
there, done that.
The looser the weave, the chunkier the knit, I should say. The chunkier the knit. And the more, cables are, coming off the surface. It's like a three-dimensional thing. The more spots things can get pulled.
Yep.
That scares the heck out of me.
Yep.
For that, I would prefer a not Guernsey. Guernsey is like half and half, but like a fisherman's
Guernsey
sweater.
is more of a general term.
When I was looking up sweaters, it had the knitting, cable knitting up top and like a flat knitting on the bottom. Yes, but I'd say it's more of a tight knee weave, or not weave. I keep saying weave. A tighter knit or a rib knit or something like that.
Like this?
Yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. So I'm a little meh on cable knit sweaters for rugged work. Frankly, I don't know how many sweaters I would wear I'd wear something cheap.
I wear a cheap sweater.
There you go.
Which leads into my answer on this. Yeah, I mean, I've said it many times, and I stand by it, that the Aran knit sweater is probably the single best warmth layer ever invented. However, it does have its limitations. It is waterproof. It is warm because the cabling adds three-dimensionality, so you get loft, so you're trapping hot air. It's fantastic. It is not the most wind resistant. I think older times they were a little tighter and so more wind resistant. Nowadays, I've worn some out in the wind and I can feel it cutting through, others not so much. They're designed for work where you're not dealing with wood or debris, you're dealing with the wet. It's a fisherman's jumper. Okay, so you're usually pairing it with some kind of a slicker, oilskin kind of stuff if necessary, and that's your added waterproofing and your wind protection. They're fantastic and breathable and also just frankly gorgeous. Would I use one for bushcrafting? Hell no. Because like you just said, like if I'm hauling firewood, if I'm getting down in the mud, if I'm with sticks and dirt and stuff like that, it's not ideal. What I have used and what I do recommend is a military surplus, what's called a woolly pulley. And there we are. These originally came about in the 1940s. They were theoretically, at least in the UK, originally developed for the SAS and for Bomber Command. And their innovations were basically, let's take some of these Guernsey type sweaters and make one that is rugged, indestructible for these guys, so they have flexibility of movement for when they're doing sneaky stuff. And then they got the idea of putting the patches on the stress points, which is a technology borrowed from hunting gear, things like hunting tweed jackets and stuff like that. And honestly, the design has not been improved on since then. It is absolutely fantastic.
Beautiful classic.
The United States Marine Corps issues them standard theoretically now. I don't know if they still do, but I know they were. And you can take the image down now if you want. The trick is, I would say, to make sure you get one that is mostly, if not 100% wool. So check the content when you buy one. There are a lot of them that are a wool and acrylic blend. I've had both and have cared to varying degrees depending on what I'm using it for. But yeah, I mean, if it's 100% wool, I don't put it in the dryer. All of them, I don't mind putting in the washing machine. Splinters, bark, mud, all that kind of stuff.
Sticks.
It doesn't care. It doesn't care. I've used them. They're my go-to. I keep one in my van, actually. It is my go-to warmth layer for anything rugged, anything halfway rugged. So if your work involves being out of doors but not handling materials, an Aran jumper is fantastic. If you're handling materials, then I'd go with the military.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of parse them out.
Yeah. And you'll have companies that are trying to sell them for exorbitant prices now because they've become a fashion item in and of themselves. If you go online, you can find surplus from many different countries. I have one from Belgium, I have one from Israel, I have one from Germany. So
he's like Pokemon of military sweaters. He's got to get them all.
I used to live in them. I used to live in them all the time. Not as much anymore, but one of my favorite ones. The cuffs are all ripped to shreds. They're all frayed and everything, but it still works a treat.
Yep,
it's fine.
Guys, wanted to take a second out from this video to thank you for watching us, and if you like this kind of content, please remember to subscribe to help us do more of this kind of content. Mac, any comments on the...
There was a question when you guys were starting off with the cable knit sweaters. Mm-hmm. Do the knit patterns, do they have a connection to a name? I knew as soon as I saw your face, I knew you knew where I was going with that.
Go to usakilts.com blog. And Jordan, maybe you can call the page and give them a sneak preview.
It'll be in the footer of the website.
Last week finished, and for the record, no creative project is ever truly finished. It's only abandoned. So someday I'll probably wind up editing this again. Aran sweaters: the myths, the frauds, and the true tragic origins of the garment. This article started because Rocky was reminded of a certain retailer that we're aware of, who offer a line of Aran knit jumpers, which they purport to have cabling patterns specific to all of the great clans of Ireland, including the Campbells.
There's a lot of Irish Campbells.
I know, but my point is they have a different knit pattern for easily like 50 different names and stuff. There is absolutely zero evidence of this being the case.
Historical evidence.
Is it like this gets back to what we talk about? Could it potentially be a new tradition that you can enjoy and carry forward into the 22nd century? Sure. The trick is, do you cop to the fact that it is an invented new tradition? Okay, just like how the Irish tartans were invented in the 90s, not the 1890s or the 1790s. And with Jordan scrolling, you can see patient zero, as I put it in the article, was this play, Riders to the Sea, which a lot of people point to and erroneously read into saying that basically, you see, they identified a dead body by the pattern of the knitting. No, in the script itself of the play, circa 1910, the body is identified, it's a dead sailor, and his body is identified by his sister because of his socks. And it's not because of the pattern of the socks, it's because she dropped some stitches when she was making them. So they were she spotted her own imperfection in her work. And that's how she was able to identify him. Very popular play, is still performed to this day, as that illustration there points out. Very, very powerful work. But it was never a systematized thing. Yeah. There were not enough families on the Aran Isles for it to become a tradition that would be village. There are only a few villages. There were 3 main family groups, okay? So to say, and the sweater itself was partially invented as a cottage industry to try and support the people of the islands who were frightfully impoverished. And that goes back to basically the 1920s, a bit earlier, but really hit stride in the 1920s and 30s and didn't become popular outside of Ireland until the 40s. Okay. And I could go on and on and on about this because it's the kind of thing that really bugs me because the real story of how these people lived, it'll rip your guts out. So
that being said,
okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I got onto a soapbox there.
Understood. It's a good soapbox to get on. But this is the invention of a tradition.
This is the invention of a tradition for profit, and that's what bothers me.
Exactly. And hey, dude, I love marketing. I studied marketing in college. I love doing our videos. I love telling stories, and I love having factual stories as well. But it's the lies, or that's a bit harsh. It's the invention of the thing. It's like
mythologizing, yes, shall we say.
Yes, I like mythologizing. That's good. It's the beginning of a mythologization of a thing where it's just like, no, just say that you're calling this one the Murphy pattern and this one the O'Donnell pattern and this one the whatever. You don't have to give every single thing some fake ancient story. Just a lot of the companies in Ireland that sell purses, like Muckross or I forget the other one we get our purses from, but they have different purses, and they give each one a name. You have to call each model a name. So, this is the Emily, this one is the Saoirse, this one is the Susan, this one's the Emily, or whatever it is. Great. Call it a name. Call this pattern, this is the Murphy pattern, but don't, that's where you stop. You stop before you start lying and selling people on something that's completely untrue.
The verbiage on a couple of these sites is along the lines of, these were adopted as traditional patterns, as representing the family, or these were sacred mystical symbols is the other version of the story, that these patterns represent these certain ancient Celtic symbols. That was the result of this guy writing a book, a yarn seller, by the way, who wrote a book which has since been completely debunked. And what I said in the article is, fine, just say, hey, we came up with these designs. We were inspired to make one for each family. We hope you'll enjoy them and accept them as a new way of expressing your heritage.
Yeah, and now to the guys,
just be honest about it.
To the guy's
people
book,
will accept it.
To the guy's book about the patterns.
Yeah.
Like if you say, okay, this is a diamond pattern. This is a rope pattern. This is a spec pattern. This is a whatever. Like giving a pattern a particular name is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But trying to invent symbolism, or you can say maybe it was inspired by X or Y, especially if you're the one who's designed the thing. But when you get into the weird, making up the stories with the thing, that's where I start to have an issue with it. Yep. Hunting sporrans. They're not really, or hunting tartans, or what, like there's not a ton of meaning in it. It's just you have to give it a name. So you give it a name, and then people want more. They want to seek more meaning out of the thing. They want to ascribe more meaning to a thing.
Right.
So it's almost like they're just like, okay, you want some meaning? Here's some drivel that I had ChatGPT write up.
It's not always that bad, but yeah, I mean, it's just honesty is what I'm looking for.
So Irish clan patterns for knitting don't exist. It's made up. It's not necessarily that it's bad, and I'm not even trying to hate on it. If you don't buy them
in that one place, they do exist now.
Yeah, but and they're not bad designs. They're nice designs.
Some of them are very beautiful.
Exactly.
Which is not hard with an Aran sweater. Honestly, it's an amazing art form. But if you walk down the street of Dublin and expect to see somebody who sees your sweater and says, "Oh, hey, I'm a Flannery also," that's not going to happen.
Nope.
That's not going to happen. So, yeah. Now, and some of the patterns now they're there are different basic patterns like the diamonds and stuff. The names have become adopted because people who are knitting them need to communicate with each other. So yes, so I used the
honeycomb or the diamond.
I used the honeycomb. I used the diamond. I used the sheep path pattern. It's become a lexicon. Fine, but to say that it's based on the Book of Kells.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed. Thank you for getting our dander up there, Mac. I appreciate that.
Glad I could help.
Yeah. Thanks, Mac. Now, obviously, I was very passionate about this, and the more because you noticed we had known about it before, and you was like, "Hey, maybe we should say something about this." And I'm like, just tell me where to shoot. If you really want to learn your Irish history and how hard it was for these people, check out the history of the Aran Isles. They lived through hell. They really did. So, mad respect for those people.